My story is basically I was a very shy girl growing up. I rarely spoke to anyone. I was the kind of girl in class that you probably didn't even know existed until the end of the year when everyone was saying goodbye. I usually had one friend that I hung out with, and that's about it. And I still have my report cards from school, and every report said the same story. She's a good student. I was a good student academically, but she never speaks. And I'm not talking when I was 9 or 10. I'm talking when, all the way through to when I was 15, 16. I was a very shy person. And then at around 18, my school friends were basically applying to university abroad. And because I wanted to be closer to them, I also applied to the UK. And I remember that was perhaps, talking about challenges, that was perhaps my first challenge. I'm the eldest of 4 girls, so my parents hadn't had any other kids who had gone abroad. And in general, in my extended family, there weren't too many kids that had gone abroad for university. And being a girl, it was even harder. So there was a lot of convincing and negotiation that needed to take place as a result. But I finally, I think, earned their trust. So it wasn't an easy process, but it was something that I wanted so bad that I didn't give up. Eventually, I did go abroad, and perhaps for me, that's my turning point. Because, as I said, I grew up in a very sheltered environment. And all of a sudden, I was living alone in the UK, studying in a mixed environment. Everything was basically, it came down to me. It was always a decision I had to make. It was not about asking for permission anymore. So I think that helped me develop my personality a lot and really helped me gain confidence in myself. And then I came back to the UAE and had a choice of basically applying to the private or public sector, and decided to go for the private sector and worked at PwC, a multinational. And again, over there, the bar was quite high, and it was also a very diverse environment in terms of the people that were there. So, there were all nationalities, both genders, all ages. And I think that's one thing as well that really helped me, again, carve my professional career, is a solid foundation in the private sector, where I was in a meritocracy. It was all about performance. It wasn't about who you were and who your dad is and so on. So that made a huge difference to me. So I've always had that attitude that I always want to learn from the people around me. I'm continuously curious, always trying to learn. And so as a result, I then applied for my master's degree, wanting to learn more about business, and I decided to apply to colleges in the US. And this time I thought, if I'm going to go and spend 2 years studying again, I want to study in one of the top schools. And I remember telling my parents that I'm going to apply to the likes of Harvard and Stanford and Wharton and the top schools, the business schools in the US. And the first answer was, come on, be realistic and make sure you have some, as they call them, safety schools, because you're not likely to get into any of these schools. But again, I think it was a sense of determination. And eventually I did get into Stanford and went and spent a couple of years in the US studying over there, and decided to actually stay in the US after I graduated and get some work experience in New York as well. So I was based at McKinsey in New York for a couple of years, which was also an amazing experience, and really, really pushed me in terms of what I thought I was capable of, but it helped me grow a lot. It was a very steep learning curve. I then came back to the UAE, and there comes a point in life where you stop being the picture and you become the frame. And I kept thinking that for the last 10 years, it's all been about me and how can I learn and how can I grow. Now I want to give back. And so I joined the Khalifa Fund in Abu Dhabi, which is basically an entrepreneurship development fund. And I think what I loved most about that job was that I was meeting new entrepreneurs every day and helping them bring their ideas to life, using my experience for a very good cause. It's perhaps, I would say, one of the most fulfilling jobs I've had. And then 3 years later, having worked at Khalifa Fund, I eventually got bitten by the bug. And when I say the bug, it's actually 2 bugs. One was the entrepreneurship bug, and one was the bug of giving back and helping. And so I started my own business recently, my own venture. It's called Khayarat. And it's a career development platform, and it's all about helping young Emiratis to get into the private sector, because I know how much that helped me, and I'd like to have other Emiratis go through that same journey. I don't know if this is something innate or that develops over time, but for me, I think I like the sense of conquering my fears. So one of the things, let me give you an example. As a young girl in school, I told you I was very shy. I also had extreme stage fright. And so initially I used to avoid it to the extent possible, didn't want to give presentations, didn't want to, play the guitar in front of people and so on. And then I think perhaps when I went abroad, it started becoming a lot more about conquering those fears. And it's such a great sense of freedom and relief when you finally do it. It's not easy, I'm not saying it's easy at all. But I think that desire to just conquer what I thought was not possible was the driving force. And if you ask me, what the biggest challenge I faced was, it was myself. I think that's true of most people. It's not, there are times when society makes it difficult and perhaps your parents don't agree with you. But the biggest challenge that we face is that we don't often believe in what we are capable of. And I think when you get to the point when you are able to believe in yourself, you're able to achieve a lot more than you thought you were initially able to. I would say the biggest challenge is yourself. And if you can get over that, you can do anything. One thing that, if I could give some advice at this point, is always try and surround yourself with people who know more than you do, or who are capable of more than you are. And by the way, that doesn't necessarily mean someone who's older than you, someone who's a manager or a director, but just always try and learn from the people around you, no matter who they are. So even if they're kids, you learn how to not to take life so seriously, how to be more nurturing. Maybe it's an athlete at the gym, and how to be stronger. Decide what it is you want to do, and it's a process. You're not born knowing what you want to do. It's a process. Discover your passions. Don't be afraid to try new things, and once you realize your calling, go after it, and don't let anyone stand in your way. I think the region has changed a lot in the last 40, 50 years. So if I look at my grandmother, for instance, she was a very strong woman in her own right. But the world has changed, and I look at my sisters and myself today, and it's a very different generation. The world has developed, the country has developed, the education systems have developed, so we're in a place where, as I said, everything is available to us. Whatever you want to study is available to you. In terms of support, there's a lot of support both from the government, and I think the society is changing as well, and realizing that it's time now for women to take their equal place in society. I want to focus on that word equality, because I think when we talk about women's empowerment, it sounds like we're saying women are better than men. That's not the case. That's not the message we're getting across. The message is really it's 50-50, and they have an equal role to play, both in the economy, but also at home. So it should be balanced on both sides. Well, I think the future generation or the current generation, they're at a very lucky time, I guess, because the women before them have really kind of opened the path and opened opportunities for them. So if you look at women like Sheikh Lubna, they've really shown us what's possible. And through projects like this one, you'll see other role models who are coming into the limelight and showing you their own journeys. And the only message I have for that generation is be true to yourself. Discover what your passions are and go after them. Don't let anyone stop you. Anything is possible. We have to do it together, both women and men. It needs to be a process where we're all supporting each other. And absolutely, the time is now. There's no looking back. Everything we require is here. We've built the foundation. It's now just trying to make it a reality. نحن قادرات إن شاء الله.